Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good morning and namaste, everyone. I have the very great privilege and friendship honor to introduce Pravrajika Vidyaprana, who will be our speaker this morning. Her title is The Pinnacle of Metaphysical what is it? Expression. Thank you. The Pinnacle of Metaphysical Expression. Now, I have known Vidyaprana since she joined the Ramakrishna Order in 1990. She came to Hollywood, and over the years we've become friends. And I feel very much a sense of collegiality with her, and am a great admirer of her scholarship and her ability to deliver that scholarship in a way that is available to us, accessible to us. And so with that, I will just leave it to Vidyaprana to tell us what she means by the pinnacle of metaphysical expression.
Okay. Well, good morning, Atlanta. I mean, it's morning for me. It's almost noon for you. Good to see you all again. And looking forward to seeing where we can go with this. I'm not going to offer an initial chant because the entire talk is going to be interwoven with chants. So this hymn to Brahman, which we will be examining in some detail today, is as close to non-duality as metaphysics can get, but it's not completely non-dual. In it, Brahman is still sort of other, separate from the one who offers up the praise. That is, it stops short of that thou art, due to a sort of a built-in duality of Prakriti, that is nature, and Purusha, or the Supreme Being, who has, in Sankhyan philosophy anyway, by definition, no connection with Prakriti. So while recognizing the paradoxical nature of reality, these philosophers were still not totally able to resolve the issue on the philosophical level, although I believe that some of the practitioners probably bridged the gap at the apex of their sadhana and really truly experienced the that thou art. Still, this is very inspirational and uplifting to chant this hymn. But before we get to the hymn itself, I have some background material. So for those who are a little unclear, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is an attempt to explore the realm of the suprasensible, that is, beyond the world of experience. Whenever you hear someone say that something is very subtle, you know that you're in the realm of the metaphysical. The elements of the universe, as presented in the Sankhya classification system, are mostly inferences gleaned from internal experiences of the ancient sages. but they are presented as fact to the. They have their usefulness in terms of lifting the practitioner up from the grossly material, but they are still just a first step on this particular cosmological path towards spirituality. Now, it's cosmological, that is the Sankhya, because it's both the microcosm, that is the human construct, and the macrocosm, that is the manifest universe. So in a nutshell, Sankhya is a metaphysical, cosmological system. With its help, we are meant to learn from the creation and intuit the unseen from the seen. These philosophers were sincerely grappling with existential questions. The basic Sankhya philosophy underlies Kashmir Shaivism, some forms of Buddhism, and was grandfathered into Vedanta also. In Advaita Vedanta, it contains the caveat that nature is merely a description of a dream, that is, the perceptible universe, is merely the description of a dream or an elusive appearance overlaid on Brahman, the supreme reality. Overlaid how? By our limited perceptual abilities and mind. We must understand that traditions, because of their inherent conservativeness, perpetuate sometimes falsity as well as truth. Hence, Krishna told us to separate the head and the tail and take only what is relevant. He was talking about a fish. So you take the edible part. Nevertheless, this hymn to Brahman represents a pinnacle within its system. Reciting this hymn reminds us of the absolute assurance that we are being held by a universal force in an eternal embrace, which enfolds us so closely and lovingly that we literally merge into it. Metaphysics has so permeated the Indian mind that it generally can't go beyond it into true non-duality, except in some rare cases. That mindset is truly stuck. Swamiji recognized this fact, that is Swami Vivekananda, and spent his life's energy trying to lift up his countrymen. I felt the need to cover this topic before talking about Advaita without metaphysics someday. Swami Sarvapriyananda does a very skillful job of it by appealing to our direct experience, as we probably all know. Now, again, before getting truly into the meat of the chant, I'd like to give a quote by Swami Vivekananda, which hopefully, as we go along later, you'll see the relevance of. Now, this is taken from his talk called Open Secret, which is in volume 2 of the Complete Works. And he said, whichever way we turn in trying to understand things in their reality, if we analyze far enough, we find that at last we come to a peculiar state of things, seemingly a contradiction, something which our reason cannot grasp and yet is a fact. We take up something. We know it is finite, but as soon as we begin to analyze it, it leads us beyond our reason, and we never find an end to all its qualities, its possibilities, its powers, its relations. It has become infinite. Take even a common flower. That is finite enough. But who is there who can say he knows all about the flower? There is no possibility of anyone's getting to the end of knowledge about one flower. So with all our thoughts and experiences, physical and mental, we begin, we may think, on a small scale and grasp them as little things, but very soon they elude our knowledge and plunge us into the abyss of the infinite. And the greatest and the first thing perceived is ourselves. We are also in the same dilemma about existence. So that's the end of that quote. I happened to find a statement by Richard Feynman, who was a great physicist of the last century. In his book, The Meaning of It All, he references Faraday, who was the electrical, in the prior century, the electrical scientific genius. Faraday wrote a children's book called The Chemical History of a Candle. And in it, he said, no matter what you look at, if you look closely enough, you are involved in the entire universe. And that's the same that Swamiji said. And also I've found many Buddhist references. In another place, Swamiji says, I'm paraphrasing, existence, consciousness, bliss, or supreme elation is the highest abstraction that the mind can achieve. I actually prefer to use the formulation asti bhati priya. That is, asti is isness, bhati is luminous knowingness, priya is dearness or objectless, overwhelming joy. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about an intermediate level of understanding between what we ignorantly commonly experience every day and the existence, consciousness, bliss that Swamiji refers to. Now, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, so if we're going to do questions and answers, don't ask me specifics about translation or grammar. I'm only compiling from sources that are available to me. Now, you'll notice one thing about the descriptors in this hymn, or actually, they're actually non-descriptors. That is, they leave us with a great amount of uncertainty. If what they're describing is not this, then what is it? That is what we have to deal with as both philosophical minded people and as practitioners. So truly speaking, this entire hymn to Brahman is a description, if such a thing is possible, of your extra supra cosmic self. It's taken from the Tantra of the Great Liberation, or Mahanirvana Tantra, which was first translated into English by Arthur Avalon, whose real name was John Woodruff. And he was a very influential translator. Various other translators have come along, Swami Prabhavananda, and at least two other unknown translators I'm going to be using today. So the term Great Liberation is translated from Mahanirvana, which is generally considered to be a Buddhist word, nirvana. But this is definitely a Hindu text from about the 16th century. Liberation, or nirvana, means the extinction of the finite, the momentary, the incomplete, the unsatisfactory, leaving no person remaining. So first, I will chant each verse, then I'll give different translations so that you can, and we'll look at specific words in detail, but you can see that the translators sometimes take a lot of license, but that just enhances the enormity of the task of conveying what is only experienceable. So the first of the 5 verses indicates that the chosen ideal is Brahman itself. Om Hridaya Kamala Madhye Nirvishesham Niriham Harihara Vidivedyam yogi bhirdhyana gamyam janana marana bhiti brahmshi sachit swarupam sakala bhuvana bijam brahma chaitanya mide. Okay, quickly, some of the individual words in here. Nirvishesha, without any special characteristics. Niriham, without differences. Harihara Vidi are cosmic functions of the divine reality. So that means creation, preservation, and destruction. Vidhi is the word used here for the destroyer, and it literally means fate or rule. And this word, I'm sorry, this is not the destroyer, this is the creator, is used to indicate Brahma and also fate in a general sense. Hari is the preserver, Hara is the destroyer. Sakala means all parts or everything. Bhuvana is the world. Bijam is the seed or source. Swarupam is one's own true nature. And Chaitanya is all conscious being. So now I'm going to look at several different translations, and mostly I'll read them out unless there's something specific that I want to point out. In the lotus of my heart, I contemplate the divine intelligence, Brahman, without distinctions and difference, knowable by Hari, Hara, and Vidhi, whom yogis approach in meditation. He who destroys the fear of birth and death, who is existence, consciousness, intelligence, the root of all the three worlds. The next one, within the lotus of the heart, let me meditate on transcendent consciousness of Brahman, Satchit Swarupam, that is inherently being consciousness, beyond otherness, and beyond fear-filled, whirling samsara, seed and source of the whole universe and its powers sought by yogis. And then we'll look at Swami Prabhavananda's translation. Within the lotus, the heart's chamber, there, let me meditate on Brahman, divine consciousness, who is neither this nor that, since he is all, who lacks nothing, since all powers are his. The yogis attain him through meditation. He takes away the fear of death, rebirth. He is being and knowing, seed of the worlds. Okay, so even though this first verse is directed toward Brahman as the chosen ideal, you can see how this language is rather deceptive. We have a formulation. Brahman equals Atman, or Atman equals Brahman, if you want to put it that way. That is, Atman equals Brahman equals your unmodified self, the permanent, unchanging, eternal, real one. So again, we'll talk about, the deceptiveness of language later on as we find used to. Okay, the second verse follows to include different paths and types of aspirants. Therefore, there's no conflict and all variations are allowable. Namaste Sate Sarvalokashrayaya. Namaste Chite Vishvarupatmakaya. Namo Dvaita Tatvaya Mukti Pradaya. Namo Brahmane Vyapine Nirgunaya. So Sat means existence, reality, being, truth. It can be many things. Loka is the world of names and forms. Ashraya is the support. Chit is absolute consciousness. Vishvarupa is the cosmic form. And Atmakaya is two words put together. Atma, we know as a sort of self, and Kaya means body or a group or collection. Now, this word Kaya became elaborated in Buddhism into 5 different types of, but I'm just going to mention the first one. Well, no, I guess I'll mention them all, but the main one that we usually hear about is the Dharmakaya of the Buddha. That is his collection of good qualities. So those would be wisdom, compassion, fortitude, patience. This is a somewhat different usage of the word than we find in this Mahanirvana Tantra, but I just wanted to point it out. So briefly, sometimes Dharmakaya is translated as truth body. And then there's the Svabhavakaya, that is the body of nature. The Jnanakaya is the wisdom truth body. And the Sambhogakaya is the enjoyment body. And the Nirmanakaya is the emanation body. So these don't exactly fit the 5 koshas or 5 sheets of Hinduism, but they are different collections for meditation purposes that the Buddhists use when they're practicing. Now, some more words that are used in this second verse. Tattva literally means thatness, but it's frequently translated as principle. Mukti, of course, we all know, means liberation from ignorance of our real nature. Vyapine, all-pervading. Nirguna is attributeless, without qualities. So, some translations of this second verse. Existence and support of all beings, salutation to thee. Intelligence pervading the whole of the universe, salutation to thee. Salutation to the principle which is one without a second, and the giver of freedom, salutation to Brahman, the all-pervading and without quality. So this all-pervading it's your intelligence that pervades the whole universe. You, Brahman. Test it. Is there any place in the universe that you know of that you can't go mentally? There's no outside of the universe. The universe has no outside. Everything we know is in the universe, and everything, therefore, is in us because we can act, not necessarily physically, but we can access it mentally. Okay, another translation of the second verse. Before the cause and support of all worlds, I throw myself down. To the all-pervading cosmic consciousness, I do prostrate. I bow to liberation bestowing non-duality. I bow to attributeless reality, Brahman. Om, I bow to thee, the eternal refuge of all. I bow to thee, the pure intelligence manifested in the universe. I bow before you, awareness made visible as this our world. I bow to thee, who in his essence is one and who grants liberation. I bow before you, soul reality, giver of freedom. I bow to thee, the great, all-pervading, attributeless one. I bow before you, the all-pervading, beyond all aspects, absolute Brahman. Swami Prabhavananda adds, I bow down to you, Supreme Brahman. I bow down to you, Atman Supreme. To you I bow down, who are beyond all forms and changes. I bow down to you, the ever-living, again and again. In reality, I'm bowing to my own higher self. If we have that understanding, we have made a huge step toward the liberation that this chant is espousing. Okay, the third verse. Tvamekam sharanyam, tvamekam varanyam, tvamekam jagatkaranam vishvarupam, tvamekam jagatkatra prahatra, tvamekam param nishkalam nirvikalpam. Ekam, one, singular, only, solely, however you want to put oneness. Vrenya, object of adoration. I came across a commentary somewhere, which I thought was quite enlightening. Vrenya, to adore, is the only free choice to be made. Jagat is the world of constant changes. Karana, the cause. Vishvarupa, the manifested universal form. Katra patra prahatra, again, we're referring to the creator, protector, and destroyer. So these are the cosmic functions of appearance, abiding, or staying, and disappearing, which covers all possible situations. You can't have anything other than those three in the universe. Nishkala, undivided. Nirvikalpa, absolute. Complete cessation of differences without change. Okay, so the translations of this verse. Thou art the only refuge and object of adoration. The whole universe is the appearance of thee, who art its cause. Thou alone art creator, preserver, destroyer of the world. Thou art the sole, immutable supreme, who art neither this nor that. Thou art the supreme, undivided, absolute. Only refuge, singular adorable one, cause of the universe, manifesting as the many. Changeless, partless, unknowable, great mystery. Flash of light all possible worlds. For you alone are our only refuge, Lord of our adoration, Master of this universe, giver of light, maker, sustainer, destroyer, yourself changeless, alone above all else. Thou alone are the fit refuge. Thou alone are the adorable one. Thou art the one cause of the universe, and thou the omniform. Thou art the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the universe. Thou alone art the supreme, immovable, and immutable. The fourth verse. Paresha Prabho Sarvarupa Vinashin Anudesh Indriyagamya Satya Achintya Vyapaka Vyaptatatva Jagadbhasakadhisha Payadapaya. So this is addressed to the Lord without specifying which Lord, Prabhu. Rupa Vinashin is imperishable form, Anirdesha, indefinable. Indriyagamya, unreachable by the senses. Achintya, beyond mind. Akshara, imperishable, indestructible. Vyapaka, all-pervading. Avyakta is unmanifest. This is going to be translated later by one of the translators as hidden essence. You see how interesting. Avyakta, the unmanifest, becomes the hidden essence. Tattva. Okay. Tattva is the principle. Again, we mentioned this once before, or reality, the essence of things. Now, this is what's interesting about Hindu philosophy is that they did not assume that things unseen didn't exist. We get a lot of that, kind of in the European side. Just because our senses can't grasp something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And so this is what they were after. A tattva, or principle, is not in the normal category of objects. Hindus recognize the unseen, but then their conclusions sometimes are deemed speculation by Western critics. I think it's interesting speculation if it's speculation. Okay, again, Jagat is the world of the universe. Bhasaka is light that illumines another. Adisha, original Lord. Payada Payat, this is an imploring, save us from danger, suffering, ignorance. It's been translated many different ways. O Supreme Lord, in whom all things are, yet unmanifest in all, imperceptible by the senses, yet the very truth, incomprehensible, imperishable, all-pervading, hidden essence, Lord and light of the universe, save us from harm. O Lord Supreme, everywhere, yet undivided, indefinable truth, beyond reach of the senses, immortal, inconceivable, hidden principle, do save us from the grave danger of duality. You are the sovereign Lord, manifest in all forms, yet yourself unmanifest. You are everywhere, yet the senses cannot find you. You are the truth of truth, not to be understood, never to be destroyed, all pervading, without form and hidden. Lord and light of the universe, save us from harm. O Lord, O truth, the supreme God, the omniform, the indestructible, the indefinable, unattainable by the senses, the unthinkable, the undecaying, the all-pervading, whose real nature is not manifest, the illuminator of the universe, the overruler. The overruler is how they've translated Adisha, the original Lord. May he save us from evil. So I hope you're kind of getting a sense of how malleable the meaning is in this, that the translators had to deal with. Okay, and then the last of the 5 verses that I selected, Tadekam smaramaha, tadekam bhajamaha, tadekam jagatsakshirupam namama, tadekam nidhanam niralambamisham, bhavam bodhipotam sharanyam brajama. Now this verse uses tat over and over again as the at the beginning. And that word is used because there's no gender, it's not personal, it's the safest and best word to use, and so it's selected as being the most appropriate. Smarama means remember or meditate. Vajama means worship or adore. Sakshi is the witnessing principle. This is what we're told to recede into our witness consciousness by all of the teachers, and to kind of save us from getting entangled in what's going on in the so-called out there. Rupa is form, nidhana is support, niralamba is supportless, that is independent. Bhava refers to samsara, that is birth and death, and bodhi is a state of mind, attitude, or consciousness. Now you put those two together, bhavam bodhi, together these two imply a becoming. Pota is a boat or a raft. Sharanya is a refuge. And Vrajama is, interestingly enough, we come to a plural verb finally here. We and like depart, go. So the translations for the 5th verse. On that one alone, we meditate. That one alone, we worship in mind. To that one alone, the witness of the universe, we bow. Refuge we seek with the one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the vessel of safety in the ocean of being. That one alone we worship, on that one we meditate. Witness of the world appearance, to that we bow down. I like that. Witness of the world appearance, to that we bow down. Independent Lord, unsupported support, our refuge. We float on that across relative existence. And then Swami Prabhavananda's translation. On you alone we meditate, who are one. To you alone we offer our worship, who are one. To you alone we bow down, sole witness of all that seems. In you alone we take refuge, who are one. In you alone is our support forever and ever. In you, Lord of this universe, life of all that lives, ship of our safety on life's oceans. We think of that alone, we worship that alone, we bow down to the one witness of the universe. We approach the one existence, the goal, the Lord Absolute, the fit refuge, the boat carrying us across the waters of birth and death. So that's our exploration into the hymn to Brahman from the Mahanirvana Tantra, which I subtitled this talk, In Praise of the Supreme, Hymn to the Supreme Divine Reality, Brahman. So in conclusion, I hope that this exercise has demonstrated that language is the gateway to the ever deeper levels of meaning. Meaning, or rather an ever deeper understanding of it, then should lead us to yearn for an actual immersion in the experience. The experience then becomes a fact. The fact of being liberated while living. This fact then becomes the basis of transmitting our confirming experience to others by way of words. And the cycle goes on. I pray that this sublime chant will lift everyone off of finiteness enough to visit it again and again. Thank you for letting me share these thoughts with you. And I will end with a different chant, another chant. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha Diviva Chakshuratatam. As with open eyes, one sees the sky before him, so the seers see always the supreme reality, the all-pervading existence before them.
May we ask you some questions and make comments and things, or do we have time for that? Or
Well, that's up to you. I mean, I've got time. It's only 8:45 for me.
I'm sure a lot of other people want to comment, and I could have a very long conversation with you about all this. Let me see. I feel like, all of us are trying to get to that, or want to get to that place of getting back to the Atman. And it's always confusing to some of us that Atman and Brahman are the same thing. And I probably
one is microcosmic, the other is macrocosmic, but fundamentally they're
right. I've thought about a lot recently as I'm getting older, different people I was in the past. Like my first, what I consider a spiritual experience, happened when I was about 5 years old. And my memory of it is not as a 5-year-old having an experience in relation to the rest of the world, adults and this, that, and the other. And I was asking myself the other day, I'm not that 5-year-old person. I don't really remember that 5-year-old person. I remember that experience. And all of my physical body cells have replaced themselves many times over since then. And my more gross levels of my consciousness have changed greatly. But, you know, what is my relationship to that 5-year-old who had that experience? Is that the Atman? Is that the witness self? Or is that something else? Anyone want to answer that question? Does that make sense at all?
Well, yes. Yeah. It's so deeply embedded. That experience is so deeply embedded that the outside form becomes sort of irrelevant.
Mhm.
Whether it was a 5-year-old or a 20-year-old or, you know, a 50-year-old, you know, because that was probably, you know, not having had exactly that experience, probably, it was a glimpse into reality, probably, and that doesn't change. So irrespective, this is what I like about this chant, is that it attempts to get us closer back to an experience like that. And it's a bridge, kind of a bridge between ordinary life and, you know, like ultimate non-duality that you get with Sarva Priyananda, who's wonderful, by the way. I'm not going to criticize him in any way, but most of us are still dealing with the mind, and this mind, I think, with the kind of, let's say, food that this the chant provides for us, if we visit it often enough, will lift us up, you know, lift us up off of, now I'm not exactly answering your question, I don't think, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of step back into that witness space again and kind of let the, you know, the world wash over you, kind of, and just kind of, you know, leave you unaffected. That's what the witness is purpose is, and we're given that faculty. You know, I don't know, it's not listed as a faculty in any of these systems, and yet it's constantly being utilized and referred to in the Jnana Yoga system, which, by the way, I understand that this is your month to study Jnana Yoga, and this is kind of an introduction, I think, into that, being sort of a step, not quite there, but almost. So Cindy, do you want to rephrase the question or anything, or what?
No, I mean, that was helpful, because maybe my question wasn't even very clear in my own mind, but just what is it that relates me to the different people I've been in my life, this life, and previous lives? I don't really care about the previous lives that much. I'm not even sure that that's a real thing, but it could be. I'm just like, where's the continuity? And the continuity is, at least in this life, just to contain it a little bit, is that witness self, whatever we want to call it. And because I have distanced myself from a lot of my past, and I don't really want to do that. I want to find a way to connect myself so that I'm not broken into pieces. And that's the connection.
Well, no, that's just a matter of acceptance. I mean, you have to sort of make peace with and accept the past. That it doesn't ever go away, and it will, shall we say, the memory of it can change, in the sense that we have the ability to alter things on a post basis. Okay, they've studied this. The whatever brain scientists or whatever found that memories are malleable, And you can take, for instance, the sting out of a memory that was really painful. You don't get rid of the memory. It's still there. You still remember that it was painful, but it's not being currently painful anymore. Okay. So like that, you can modify your memories to, let's say to heal, if I can't think of a better word, but to become more to whole in yourself. So you don't want to get rid of those things, but you may want to work on them a little bit. But you know what? You don't have to work on them consciously, because if you're doing your spiritual practice, they will start to modify already. Kind of, the mind has a sort of a self-healing thing built into it. If we're trying to, so we say, educate it, you know, instead of just letting it do its own thing, and it runs around for our entire life like a petulant 3-year-old, you know. If you don't educate it, then you've really, well, nobody taught you. I understand. I mean, I'm saying this sort of just general in the whole society. Nobody in the West teaches you how to deal with your mind. I mean, the education does not go there, neither at home nor in schools. And so this is the first thing I think that we benefit by when we come in contact with Oriental religions, is that this, to them, this is step one. You learn how to use this faculty or set of faculties called the antakarana that you were given by nature. So, all right, so we use those faculties, and we learn how to modify our past memories so that when we encounter a new situation that's fairly similar to the old one, instead of like automatically reacting or have it, they call it like a samskaric release or something like that, and you so respond the same way that you did in the beginning. No, you've educated yourself so that, okay, I understand this is a similar situation, but I'm not locked into having to respond the same way I did before. So it gives you more freedom to live, and this freedom gradually grows until I hopefully will reach the ultimate freedom, which is liberation from the entire identification with all of the modifications that we've come to identify ourselves with, that aren't really who we are.
Is it, this is Gaurav, is it something that Mahamrityunjay mantra kind of tells you, that you're asking the divine to enlighten you in such a manner that you fall off like a ripe fruit from a tree?
Well, I know a lot of people use that in a kind of a healing sense. So I suspect it's very similar, although I would have to look at it again closely. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it certainly is a related way, I think, of doing that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I personally had a thought, like, just like we eat food and we digest it, and if we don't digest the food, physical food, it produces like waste in our body that gives us trouble. Maybe we come in this world to have experiences that we are supposed to digest, and if we don't digest them, then we'll keep on having those similar experiences.
Right, and they'll give you indigestion, like you said. Yeah. If you don't deal with them properly. Yeah.
Then again, in the Gita, it's mentioned that you might partake in certain poison which is very sweet and tastes great, but weaning off it is the true thing. So that's by one of the gunas, rajas, I believe. and weaning off it, I think, is the key. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right thing.
Well, you might be, but the thing of it is, how do you wean? See, generally the thing is to rather than just totally getting rid of something, the objective in spiritual practice usually is to give something else that's better, that becomes more attractive. So that's what Ramakrishna used to always talk about, is directing everything toward the divine. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do that, but just, like Xing something out is much more difficult than saying, well, this X isn't nearly as attractive as this goal of mine, or this other, spiritual objective that I have.
Godward turn, as you may call it.
Yeah, like a Godward turn, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sister.
Namaste, Vidyaprana. This is Uma.
I remember you, Uma.
Thank you. I'm so enjoying your lecture, and particularly all of the 5 shlokas that you explained so well. It's part of my daily prayers. So I was thrilled that you selected those.
Oh, good.
Continuing the discussion that Cindy started, the way I feel, many times we discuss this, my husband and myself, are we the same or are we way far away? And we have been changing every year almost. And the way I feel inside strongly that, say what age I was, about 9, 10, and certain things that I liked or disliked, certain basic tendencies, which were then, of course, in a very primitive or early form, they have been changing continuously, and I am witness. And still, I feel deep down, I have not changed. I see a connection between who I am right now and the way I was developing from stage to stage to stage. So, if that is what we call self, yes, I am a witness of that self, which I call spiritual evolution. So I think all of us, whatever stage we are at, we are kind of changing and yet not changing. We are still basically, in a sense, at the core, we are the same. And that's what maybe we call witness or unchanging our Atman, our real true self. That's how I feel.
Right. Well, I'm glad you asked it again, because I was going to say this when Cindy asked, and then it escaped me. And that is, it's sort of like we can think of ourselves as an electron. Okay. Now, an electron, it might have a history, I've been here, I've been there, whatever. But in actuality, when they test it, they find that the electron actually can be anywhere. The same electron can be anywhere. Okay. You can't pinpoint it. So our lives are kind of like that. Yes, we've been all these different places, and we've sort of been all these different, like personalities, and we've had all these different experiences and whatever. But in actuality, the like you say, the unchanging part is the true identity, and it's not pinpointable.
Yeah.
You can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
But we have the mind is what has this tendency to create a continuity.
Mhm.
Okay, because the mind can't deal with the whole thing.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
You know, you talked Vidyaprana in speaking to Cindy and to others about this idea of healing or changing. It seems that one of the reasons for chanting these hymns relates to this idea of Shabda Brahman, God in the form of sound. These sounds, these holy words, and their truth, their being, are identical. So when we chant them within ourselves, chant them aloud or chant them mentally, that vibration is manifesting within us and is spontaneously changing us. This is one of the reasons, of course, we're told to chant a mantra, that the mantra has these holy vibrations that are healing and spontaneously change us. Holiness itself shall transform you, as Krishna says in the Gita. So it was beautiful to hear you chant this. And as I was hearing you chant it, I thought, that is Shabda Brahman.
Yeah, very good comment. Excellent. Yeah.
And that reminds me, for Navarati, when we chant the Jai Sri Durga, we're supposed to chant that aloud, correct?
As pleases yourself.
Not necessarily.
Okay. And I've been doing 1,000 a day, and someone told me last night that it would be better to do 1,008. Is there any truth to that?
Say that again.
Someone told me it's better to chant 1,008 times than I've been doing 1,000 a day, and somebody told me it's better to do 1,008.
Not necessarily, no, because into every 100, there are eight. Your beads are 108. Into every 100, there's actually.
Oh, so it's better to do 108 times each time than 100.
No, if you have beads, that's how
No,
the beads.
I don't have beads. I don't have,
Okay.
just counting.
Well, then don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's a small technicality. I would.
Okay, no big deal. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's being dogmatic, and we know what we think about dogma around here.
Yeah, I just, it doesn't. Yeah, not worth thinking about.
Exactly.
I often felt that when I try to count, like, let's say if I decide I'm going to do X number of rounds or whatever, and I count, I become impatient and I don't enjoy it. And it appears like a torture. But if I forget everything and I just try to enjoy it, like very slowly, I can really enjoy it. I don't know how to get around this because I think we're told to count as well.
Well, no, Swami Swahananda used to say, maybe do it once, figure out how long it takes you to do 1,000. Okay. And then however many thousands you need to do, take that amount of time and only go by time. If counting on the beads or whatever, or counting on your fingers is distracting, then just take time. So for instance, in my case, I know it takes me about 25 minutes to do 1,000. So, just pick a period of time where you've got 20 minutes and continuously chant if you can. But the mind wanders. So if you're not using beads or something, you have a pretty good watch on the mind.
Yeah, I'm trying to do Gayatri Mantra 108 plus times every day, and counting in the fingers is very difficult for me because you're so deep into meditation. It's hard, and I try to use the beads instead, and I think that helps a little bit. And every time I'm doing it, I go to bed. Before that, I do it in the morning. I'm automatically saying that to myself when I wake up. I'm not sure what's going on.
No, that's great. That's great.
I wanted to bring a couple of points. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Your discourse today was very instructive. And there's a difference. And that Cindy's question brought me to the same thing. You came to our retreat a few years back. That time you gave a discourse. And halfway through that, my mind was exhausted. I could not understand anything after that portion of the discourse. Today, for example, I could go through a discourse completely all attentive. And that brings to the question which Cindy asked. What happened to that 5-year-old? That 5-year-old was extremely important to become the 35-year-old Cindy that she is today. So we are on a metamorphotic scale. In metamorphosis scale, at every step, we have to be watchful. Whether there are 108 steps, 111 steps, doesn't matter. But each step, we have to be watchful so that we do not lose our pathway. For example, you used in the very beginning the word kaya. That kaya to me is a very important word. That kaya is very important. Kaya is body. But even scientifically, we say body of evidence. The body of evidence shows that one. So body is not a body. Body is just a symbol of a
collection.
shape.
A collection.
It's a collection. It's a collection.
Right.
And if kaya keeps on changing, let it change. Because we will not be wise and old if we are staying young all the time. So there is an advantage of going further along the course. Same way you use the word lotus, Padma. And I'm thinking about that one. That to me, see, the best thing I like about our Vedic literature, which to some extent is prevailing even in the other literature, no name given to it. Who wrote this? Nobody knows. Because that person who wrote this is not interested in pushing his name that he made it. And that's the reason why we are propagated by the force of it, rather than being stuck on a particular point. So
Right.
Padma, for example, lotus is a supreme quality because the water does not make it wet. Okay, because if you throw water like a drop, it will roll off, but it will not wet the lotus. But on the other hand, the turgor of the lotus is maintained by the water which is circulating through it. The moment you take the lotus out of water, it will wither.
Yeah,
So it's
it gets yeah.
So water is a supportive source, and yet it stays away from water. And that is the way we have to proceed in our life. Be in the life, and yet don't be absorbed in life. It is just a stage. Go further.
Right. Can I just make a comment? Not directly on what you said at all, but there have been several references to different periods of time in our life and stuff like that. Well, Shankar, maybe you can help me. But in our memorial service, it says something like, and I think Swamiji, the departed person, but that's irrespective, is where he or she always has been.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So there is this time thing that we have is an illusion like all others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Past, present, we think things have changed. It's part of the illusion. In actuality, in reality, it's not there. Reality doesn't have time. Electrons are not aware of time.
Yeah.
No, and neither is the heart, as Jill Bolte Taylor pointed out when she had this massive stroke that took away her left hemisphere. She was left with only her right brain or heart awareness, and she said it was totally timeless. There was no such thing as time there.
Right.
And so it is an invention, as is so much of the left mind, the mind as is described in Sankhya. It is an invention of that cosmic principle and the gunas.
So the implication is, if you can just every once in a while say to yourself, you know, I am that timeless self, and just sort of try and be in that,
Yeah.
for even just a few seconds, you know, even just a few seconds. All of this stuff melts away, and not just the past, the future that we have projected, that we have fantasized, that we have, you know, created, hoped for, desired, whatever you want to say, that all goes too, and it's just the timeless self.
Yes.
That's part of what the practice of, you know, concentrating on the breath, that's part of what it leads you to, I think. I'm not really sure because I haven't followed that to its end, but anyway.
Well, you mentioned Vivekananda. Vivekananda said one existence, timeless existence.
Right. One unit,
Where-
he said, one unit existence.
Exactly. And he said of those who apparently pass away, they have not gone anywhere. Where would they go?
Exactly. Where would they go? Where's to go?
They have just left the bodysuit, I would say, spacesuit.
Yes.
Stardust spacesuit. Yes.
They've
And
dropped.
Sri Ramakrishna said that it's worthwhile to tell yourself that you're free. And I am free.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is the refrain of Swamiji's inspired talks. Just
Well,
repeat to yourself that phrase.
and when I asked Swami Swahananda one time, I can't even remember the exact question, but you know, what is, you know, the practice of Vedanta? He said to me, affirmation. One word, he said, affirmation. So you affirm the reality that you truly are, even though you may not in your mind feel that, you know, you've experienced it, as you affirm.
Yes, he said the same thing to me, different words, but the same thing. Satyagraha, insist on the truth.
But then going back to the kaya form, if you consider the body, millions, trillions of cells, each one by itself, but still attached to the body itself. So that is how the whole universe is. If all the cells communicate with each other to make a body, all the bodies can get together and support the universe, understand the universe, and go beyond it. And to me, that is the idea of Vedanta, which is most appealing to me. We are not individual people. We are not individual people.
Okay, I want to just jump off from what you're saying. And that is, if you go back, you know, we're so attached to this body, but look, there were cavemen at one point. You know, where have they gone? There were, you know, the builders of the pyramids. There were the people who you know, built the great cathedrals in Europe, and there were people who came across the steppes and invaded Europe. And where are all these people gone? Okay, I mean, there is nowhere, like Shankar was saying, there is nowhere, because they are in us. We are thinking of, you know, they're no different from us. Okay, the kaya, they may have had a different kaya collection of elements, but it's basically the same elements that our bodies have. And you know, it's like a dream. They came and went.
Yea and amen. We are the dinosaurs.
You know, exactly. We are, like Swamiji said, we are our own ancestors. You know.
Precisely.
just in the
Yeah.
way that Sanskrit language is profound, Latin language also gives some of the indications of our way of thinking. Memento mori and memento mutatio. Be aware that you are going to die. And therefore, you put your life to use. And memento mutatio, you are going to keep on changing during this life. So when
Yeah.
you put two principles together, suddenly the secret of our existence becomes evident to us as an instrument.
People, I mean, I've heard of criticisms of this mode of thinking, but personally, I think that those critics don't really know what they're talking about, because the more you kind of lift yourself off from the current situation, shall we say, that you might be living in, the more flexible your inner resources become. And you don't have to be stuck in the sense of you can't make changes in if you need to make changes in your life, you can make changes. I mean,
Yes.
because there's no permanence in things here. So there's no point in holding on to, well, but yeah, but this is my house, or this is my stuff, or this is my background, or this is my education, or whatever, any of that, because the resiliency is much more internal. And if you're holding on to something, how do you know that you're not actually depriving yourself of some better experience? I mean, you're stuck. That's called being stuck.
Exactly.
That way, perhaps instead of free, unbounded is a better word. We are unbounded.
Correct. No boundary. Okay, Shankara, how are we doing?
Can I ask you one?
I had to leave the room.
Okay. Well, Cindy's in charge then.
Well, I do have those powers we were talking about.
Right. Exercise them. Ma. It's the season of Ma.
Wow.
Divine Mother. Power, Shakti.
It's kind of akin to the thing that goes on, like in India. We have elephants, and these baby elephants, they're tied to a spot with a tiny peg on the ground, and the elephant grows up and becomes this huge, powerful animal, and yet it thinks it's bound to that spot by that little tiny peg where it can literally pull it off.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Very
Exactly.
good. Very
and
good.
here it is moving trees. It's the most powerful land animal. So
But it still thinks it's connected to that.
it could, that little tiny little, yes, and it goes nowhere.
That's good. Very good example. That's great.
Thank you.
There's a very strange feeling, like when you watch like burning ghats, like in India, they sort of burn bodies on wood. And like a lot of people in general will feel afraid of watching that. But I mean, sometimes when you watch that for a while, you feel a great joy. It's very weird.
Oh my.
It's like the eternity, like, it's death is the first door to eternal life, or like it's freedom.
Well, the kaya going back to its elemental components. Yeah.
And the joy is not so much in the pyre, but to, like, you're not getting joy out of the death actually, but you're getting joy out of the touch that you're getting with eternity by just seeing that.
Yeah. They when the sadhus at Bellarmine are cremated, thing that Oje de Kajai, Are you familiar with that? That song? It's wonderful. Yeah, any- yes.
Yes. Or
Do you-
look at him going or something.
it's a celebration, sort of, but a
Yes,
celebration
yes.
like of an ascent into a transcendental realm, shall we say?
Yes. Yes.
Although not in a gross sense, but anyway, it's
No,
like
no,
a
no. Yes.
freedom, you know. Yeah,
Freedom from the outer
wonderful,
requirement.
beautiful song, beautiful song.
Yes. Yes.
Well, since we have a little time till Brother Shankar comes back, something I wrote, and again, I didn't write down exactly what you were saying, but this is something I find interesting in the Vedic scriptures, verses especially Christian. Like you were translating, giving some interpretations of the different verses, and one of them was something like, he who destroys, Brahman being he who destroys the fear of birth and death. Swami P's was, he takes away the fear of death and rebirth. And in the Chandi, there's something about asking the Divine Mother to basically remove or destroy our fear of evil. And I love this, destroying or removing or taking away our fear of these things, rather than just taking away those things themselves. Like in the Our Father and the Christian is deliver us from evil. And that's not realistic. But do you have any thoughts about that? And especially since this was part of this chant about destroying the fear of birth and death and rebirth, rather.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, Swamiji said, face the brute. You know, it's like in a situation where you would normally be fearful, you turn around and face it. And, you know, a lot of times you'll find that, first of all, it's not as fearful as it was, or whatever is coming at you kind of, you know, subsides in the face of your refusal to flee. I mean, on the other hand, I mean, you have to be, you know, kind of realistic. I mean, you don't want necessarily face a bullet or something like that. But I mean, as far as it builds then a type of confidence that you can face the fear and not just, no, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but the event that is creating the fear, you begin to see a separation between the fear and the event. Okay, so what you're really want to do is be able to deal with the event. That's what you have to do. Okay, so the fear is preventing you from doing that, possibly, most likely. Okay, so if you get somehow deal with the fear or put it far enough in the background so that you can deal with the event, then the fear eventually will shrink.
But when we're talking, yes, that when you're talking about, you know, facing the brute and actual, you know, real world, so to speak, events. But when we're talking about death and rebirth and evil, we're talking about things that aren't, they are events, but they're not anything we can control in any way. We can't, you can still face them though, fearlessly. And to face them fearlessly is freedom.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, evil is a nebulous kind of a noun. Okay, you're never going to face evil on a conceptual level. You can only face evil when it's happening. So that means, you know, you're somehow in that. And it's otherwise it's like a boogeyman, you know, it's a some nebulous thing out there that's going to get you, but in reality, you only can really deal with what comes at you. So that's my problem with this deliver us from evil is see, this is the duality. This is the Christian idea of duality, is good and evil. Okay. Whereas the Hindu idea of duality is subject object. Okay. So they're just not on the same level.
No, they're not. I have a friend who insists lately that the thing that people are the most fearful of is death. I don't know that I agree with that, but I think that a lot of people are. And
there have been studies that say that on the contrary, one of the biggest fears is public speaking. it rates higher than death, truthfully.
The way to get over it is to do it, and you can't go, well, I'm going to die, so I won't be afraid when it happens the next time.
You just bite the bullet. I mean, you just, okay, if it doesn't go all that great first time, at least, you've done it, and now you've got a little bit of experience, and the next time will be a little better and whatever.
Fear is very important in the sense it lengthens life. But the absence of fear deepens life. So because of fear, we keep on living. We are constantly protecting the body. And that is what adds to the length of life.
No, I disagree. I'm sorry. I totally disagree. I'm sorry. The energy that is taken up in creating the fear is actually draining you.
Yes.
If you can get rid of the fear, you can get rid of the fear, the body will go on its own. It's got its own prarabdha karma. It will continue. You're no longer poisoning it with fear.
Yes.
Okay. So the body will actually be healthier, and there's no reason to feed it a negative emotion.
Yes.
That's one of the things I've heard, like about the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. If you keep chanting, all you're doing is basically you're getting rid of your fear. And people have said, "Oh, we have been cured," and all that. That's not what happened. The main thing that happened is you're not fearing the worst, or means dying or something. So you probably are free at that point of time. That's why you're overcoming it.
Very great point. That really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other day,
I think, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. The other day, somebody I think was mentioning and it's common in everybody's life, including mine. Like sometimes something happens and we fear a void, it's a dark void and suffering. Especially if anything we're addicted to, including normal things in life, that's taken away. And what I found is in those situations, for some reason, just the entire symbolism and imagery around Mahakali, and just like Jai Mahakali and jumping right into that void. And I think that's the strongest way to get rid of the fear. And in fact, it's a great power there. The fear gets transformed into power.
Yeah, like Kali Kavach. Is that how you say it? Kavach?
I don't know about the kavach, but and maybe it does give a kavach actually.
But that's what the kavach does. Is it gives an armor, and the armor is actually the goddess. Yeah.
I have a comment on fear.
Yes, Tom.
There's so many different types of fear that I think we should have different words. We just have this one word fear. But so far as fear of death, I want the kind of fear of death that if I'm crossing the street and I see a truck coming towards me, I feel very frightened and I get out of the way. I want that. I don't want the type of fear of death that I think, oh no, someday I'm going to die, someday I'm going to cease to exist. That's horrifying. I don't want that. Anxiety, which is a type of fear, most of anxiety I would rather not have, but a certain type of anxiety that makes me go to the dentist because I have anxiety that if I don't, my teeth will hurt in the future. That I want. So that's it. We need different
Yeah, you're
names
probably
for
right.
fear, different types of fear.
Well, like we need different words for love also.
Yeah, yeah.
English is very, pretty deficient in some of these regards. Yeah.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Public speaking is more like, at least I'm more fearful of public speaking as well.
I think it improves by doing often and getting rid of the fear. Unless you do it several times, you cannot.
Like they say, what do you do when you fall off a horse? You get back on.
Yes,
Exactly.
precisely.
Exactly.
We fall 1,000 times, we rise 1,001 times. Vivekananda. Well, dearest heart, we have so enjoyed your presence, not just your wisdom, but you mentioned the word affirmation earlier. The definition, one of the definitions of holy company is they are affirmative and you feel uplifted in their presence. And so it has been this morning with you, well into the afternoon now. I'm sure your sisters have kept your breakfast for you, but you will have to warm it up. So we don't want to keep you any longer from your day. So from the very bottom of this heart, thank you for taking this time and affirming so many aspects of the reality with a capital R for us. And as always, it's just wonderful to hear what your mind has come to and what it's giving forth. So I'm not going to make any announcements. If anybody wants announcements, they can go to the website, they can go to the Facebook page, they can go to the newsletter, and the announcements are there. So I will just close with our normal closing prayer. And again, Pravrajika Vidyaprana, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Om. May the universe, excuse me, let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So once again, dear, thank you for taking this time with us. And to everyone, goodbye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. Bye-bye.